door, and then Professor Raymond Duval opened the door and invited me into his office. While I was in the office, Professor Duval offered to give me an A if I would sleep with him, and made it clear that I would get a C if I said no. I said no, and I got a C. But in 1977, I joined Alexander versus Yale, the first sexual harassment lawsuit under Title IX, challenging and establishing gender discrimination as illegal under Title IX, and gave plaintiffs the right to sue institutions that refused to investigate or provide a remedy. In 1980, as a law student, I challenged the patriarchy on behalf of battered women in Alameda County. In 1981, I found myself in an abusive relationship and ultimately was arrested and prosecuted by the very office that I was elected to lead in 2022. I was prosecuted as a victim of domestic violence. It was my honor, however, to serve as the 30th District Attorney of Alameda County and to be the first non-appointed district attorney elected in this county since 1938. In my first term, we partnered with law enforcement agencies to tackle gun violence, human trafficking and wage theft, and crimes against women and children. We processed cases at a higher rate than my predecessor. We expanded and improved services for victims by hiring diverse victim advocates, reducing backlogs, and ensuring access to quality health and wellness services. We went after corporate criminals and rogue public officials and police officers. We received millions of dollars in grants and secured over $20 million in judgments in our first year alone. We saved California taxpayers, we helped save California taxpayers over $234 million per year through our innovative resentencing program. We hired and trained over almost 200 professionals, mainly focusing on people from this county. Those are just a few of our accomplishments. The work is not finished, and we need your help to get back on track in Alameda County. I hope to earn your support and your vote. Thank you for joining us today.
Your mic is not working. Good evening, everybody. How are you doing? My time is running, and I'm going to use this time to thank you, Forrest, the Rebound Project, and Alex Hall, and Mr. Kapur for coming here, and for everybody who is here, because I think you believe in justice. Because of that, you are here. Can you hear? Everybody can hear me, right? Perfect. So I don't have that interesting history like the Miss Price. My life is very simple. I came from India as an immigrant, passed the bar exam here, and my wife actually supported me a lot during the whole journey. We lived in Nebraska. That was a different experience. I don't know you have lived over there or not. I came here, started my practice, and I represent families and businesses. Majority of my clients, I would say 99% of my clients, they are businesses and the families. I do immigration, I do family laws, I do cases. So if you see my clients, they are just like you guys. You have small businesses, and I don't have big businesses. I have the clients which are now this year affected by the new H-1B immigration rules. They are small businesses. They are restaurants, they are liquor shop. There's one liquor shop down there. They are my clients. They are just like me. They try to survive. So when I see that what are the issues they are having in their regular life, especially as a family person and a businessman, the business people, they're working very hard just to stay above the water. One robbery, one lawsuit can actually close down the business. And I'm saying there is a robbery without involving any injury or death. It is just a robbery. So they're trying very hard for that. I'm here to fix that. For the businesses, I represent many clients, for the families, I represent many families. Those are the victim of the domestic violence. Sometimes those are the abuser of the domestic violence as well, because I represent both the parties. So we need to see where the disconnect is. They don't believe in the legal system. They think if they call the cops, nothing is going to happen. Sometimes there is immigration as well. So as a district attorney, my job is to make sure that they know they have somebody who is in the office to listen to them. I'm not here for myself. I'm here for all of us because we live here. We have to live here. We're not gonna move here. If we're gonna move here, that's a different story. But I'm not moving from here. I lived here in Alameda County for the rest of my life. So I think you need a new person who knows and who can work for you, not for the businesses, not for the corporations, not for the police associations, not for anybody else, who works for you. So you vote for me.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Krishnan. Our first question is for Pamela Price. Ms. Price, over 60% of Alameda County voters made the decision to recall you from office. Why should voters give you a second chance? You have 3 minutes.
I believe that the voters of Alameda County deserve a fair opportunity to choose their elected official. A recall is not an election. It was not a contested election. And so we know that it was an election. It was the worst election of our lifetime. We elected Donald Trump as our president. And it was a time that was fraught with disinformation and misinformation. What the voters now will have is a clear opportunity to look at the accomplishments of my administration. As I mentioned, we saved the California taxpayers over $234 million during the time as part of my administration for our resentencing. We processed more cases than my predecessor at a higher rate than my predecessor. I was working to reduce gun violence, partnering with local law enforcement. Our gun violence report tackling gun violence as an epidemic in Alameda County was an opportunity for us to move forward on the issue of gun violence. We actually got more than $5.5 million in grants to fight gun violence and to deal with domestic violence, working with the courts and law enforcement on gun violence restraining orders. And so that important work was happening. It was not well reported, but now we have an opportunity in this moment for the public to see and have a clear vision of what happened, of what occurred in my administration, and how we move forward. I am the person that will stand up and hold federal officials accountable, just as we began the work of holding law enforcement accountable in this county. In the time of Trump, it is a call to action for all of us that we need a district attorney who does not behave in any way and is not aligned in any way with Donald Trump. And so the public has a choice at this point, and I believe that it's important that we provide information, which is what this debate does about what is at stake in Alameda County. Thank you.
Just to follow up, can you address any specific mistakes that you may have had during your term, and how will you prevent them should you win re-election?
One of the things that we were held accountable for was a backlog, and that backlog existed before I became the district attorney. One of the things that I tried to do, which didn't work out so well, was to ask the deputies in the office to help us reduce the backlog and to set up a special team to do that. The deputies were resistant to doing that. But I will point out that I never lied to the public. Once we discovered the backlog, I said it's a problem and we have to address it. I think another thing that we were not able to do successfully was to include, there were a handful of victims of crime who felt that they were excluded from my Victims Advisory Committee. We made a decision not to include victims with active cases in our Victims Advisory Committee. It was composed of about 20 people whose cases had already already been resolved. And so I know that in my second term that we will have a separate, probably a separate commission just for people who have active cases and feel like they want more information or they may not be getting as much attention from the deputies as they wish to have. So there are some things that can be improved in the DA's office in my second term. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Mr. Krishan, you've spent most of your career as an attorney working in private practice, specifically representing clients in immigration and divorce cases. You've never worked as a prosecutor or held any other role in a district attorney's office. Why should voters give you the top law enforcement job in Alameda County?
So when you ask this question, it looks like only the people who has worked or who has the experience in the assistant in the DA office should be qualified for that. That's not true. It is an elected post and it is the constitutional right for all the voters. The California Constitution gives the right to all the voters to have elected officials. That includes the elected district attorney, elected sheriff, elected assessor, and some other post. So when you talk about that, I don't have this and that's why reason I'm not qualified for this, it's not true. You need to see who can be the district attorney, why they choose me, what is in it, which is in that the person who has already worked in the district attorney office. In fact, if you see the person who is working in the district attorney office, the culture of the office actually grooms you. When you are in a specific office, you think like other people. You see the other people. You think, okay, this person is doing good. Let me repeat that. Let me copy that. So you lose your individuality. You lose the sight. So as a private practitioner, I know what is needed over there. I don't have that boxed view. I don't have any tunnel view that, okay, this is as an officer or as district attorney, I should do only this. I need what the public wants. And the public wants the justice, the public safety, accountability, transparency, which is missing in it.
Thank you. And just to follow up on that, what specific experience do you have that qualifies you to lead this office, understanding, of course, that as DA, you would be tasked with managing an office of hundreds of employees and be responsible for a multi-million-dollar budget?
I have managed the office with about 400 lawyers from 2015 to 2019. That office has lawyers in 4 different countries. So I can bring that experience in the district attorney office. In that office, I managed the compliance for 4 different countries. That includes Canada, India, Pakistan, and Myanmar, the Burma. So it had all the associates everywhere worldwide. So I have the experience on that. So I think I'm qualified to maintain about 150 lawyers in it.
Thank you.
This question is for both of you. In your view, what is the primary role and the mission of the district attorney's office?
I have said repeatedly, and I continue to say, that the district attorney is a minister of justice. Folks should understand it's not the lawyer on the ground who's practicing law. It's not the district attorney's job to charge cases or dismiss cases. The district attorney is a manager of an office. We successfully submitted 2 budgets over 2-year cycles for $100 million. That requires someone who can, in fact, look at not only the management of the lawyers, but the inspectors. The district attorney's office has 75 inspectors, over 400 employees. And so you're engaging not only with the office, but you're also engaging with other elected officials, with the Board of Supervisors. We made an effort to reach out to every mayor. I met with every mayor, every city attorney, every police chief in this county during the time that I served in that capacity. The district attorney is the one that sets the direction for the office. And I agree with my esteemed colleague here. We have an office in the district attorneys, and we now have under the interim district attorney, people who are subject to groupthink. They've all been thinking the same way, and we have an office that has not seen any kind of change in 50 years. And so as a change maker and as an activist at the table, my role coming into this, what I was elected to do was to bring change to that office. Change makes some people uncomfortable, and a lot of people got very uncomfortable with the fact that this county wanted a different kind of justice, a different kind of leader. And so we saw the backlash. Dr. King said for every forward step, there's going to be a backwind. And so we saw that happen, but we cannot let that deter us. As a minister of justice, I remain committed to justice. Justice is in my DNA.
Thank you, Mr. Krishan.
So I disagree on one thing and I agree on the other part. So the part where I disagree with Ms. Price is the Minister of Justice. The California Government Code says the district attorney office, that's the primary job of the district attorney, is to prosecute crime. If you have a district attorney who thinks that my job is something else, then your district attorney is misguided. That's the primary job. He's a top prosecutor of the office. The whole team is just there to support him. If your top guy is having second thought, okay, my job is different, you don't need that person as your district attorney. Second is the change. Yes, the district attorney office is still old school. If you see the district attorney office website, social media, they live in Stone Age. They have no social media presence. They have no social connect. Look at the young people here. They don't even know what, not you guys, many of the young people, they don't even know what the district attorney does. Who is the district attorney? They think the mayor is more important, the council member is more important. This has to change. The district attorney office has to connect with the people of this county. So as a district attorney office, I will implement the technology. We live in Bay Area, we live in Silicon Valley, and the district attorney office is basically old school. It has to change. If we change it, we have a data which will be processed, and that processed data will save a lot of time. We can use that time and resources to hire more attorneys, to hire more staff. We can use the value of that money in the district attorney office in a better way. That has to be changed.
Ms. Price, we'll give you a minute to respond.
As your district attorney, yes, my duty is to prosecute. That includes civil and criminal prosecution. We have a robust consumer justice bureau under my administration and under every predecessor before me. And that consumer justice bureau is as important as the criminal branch of the office. The office handles civil cases, criminal cases, juvenile cases. You have to have someone who is familiar with all of those parts and pieces of the job. And I can assure you that I'm very familiar with every aspect of the office of the district attorneys and how to move it forward and how to bring those things together. We hired over almost 200 people. We staffed the juvenile justice division as much as we staffed the felony trial division. We brought in lawyers that specialize in prosecuting domestic violence cases. I was fortunate to have one of the top attorneys, prosecutors in the state to address domestic violence cases.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Price. This next question is for both candidates. Do you believe that all cases involving minors should be kept in the juvenile system? Or are there crimes where you believe transferring a case involving a minor to adult court is appropriate? And if so, in what circumstances would you consider it? Mr. Krishan, we'll start with you.
So when you say word all, that itself is a problem. We cannot have one rule for all. We have kids who are 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old. We have the kids 17 and a half years old. We have kids which are doing a loan for the first time. We have kids, those are recruited by the seasoned criminals. We cannot have one rule for all. So we have to make a rule that what are the case facts, what are the possibilities in a specific kid. If the kid is being recruited, being a repeated offender, or doing some violent crime, then my policy will be that kid has to be treated as an adult and should be prosecuted as an adult. However, if I see the kid which has no violent history, no crime, no criminal history, and this is the first time the person is doing it, the kid is doing it, I still see the hope in that kid. And I do believe in a second chances, but it has to be qualified for that. That has to be earned. That cannot be asked as a matter of right.
Thank you. Ms. Price?
The question, I'm sorry, the question, please.
The question was, do you believe that all cases involving minors should be kept in juvenile court? Or are there crimes where you believe transferring a case involving a minor to adult court is appropriate? And if so, in what circumstances would you consider it?
I agree with my colleague. The word all is a problem. And every case, particularly juvenile cases, requires an intense consideration. And actually, as the district attorney's office, we partner with the Alameda County Probation Department. My office took a position and we issued a written directive that except in special cases, extraordinary cases, we would not press for juveniles to be tried as adults. And the reason why we did that is based on that. Thank you. It's because not only I'm a survivor of juvenile incarceration, I understand how damaging that is. I know adults who were prosecuted as who were children that were prosecuted as adults, and how devastating that is. That does not make us safer. We know that. The data is in on those cases. The brain science also shows us that young people are particularly, their frontal lobe does not develop until they reach, fully develop, till they reach the ages perhaps of 25 or 26. So holding them, ignoring the brain science and holding a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old, a 17-year-old to the same standard as an adult is absolutely ridiculous. What happens in all of our cases where we have young people, there are occasions where the probation department will say, this child cannot be rehabilitated. That is the exception to the rule. The juvenile court has jurisdiction over juveniles for a period of 7 years. Okay? And so there's every opportunity for us as a community to hold the standards of basic humanity and understanding, respecting the brain science, respecting that most people will age out of crime. And so looking to say we're going to charge juveniles as an adult, as a matter of course, is a very dangerous and mistaken view.
As a follow-up for both of you, can you speak to the fact that there are some teenagers that are often recruited by adults to commit crimes, get involved in gang activity, robberies, and that could lead them down a path of negativity? Can you speak to it, how you plan to address that should you get a second term? And then Mr. Krishan will take 1 minute from both of you on this question.
I know personally that there are young people who are recruited down a life of crime because I was one of them. And I know that young people can be changed, they can be diverted, that it's our responsibility as a community to intervene in those situations. As a prosecutor, I did, in fact, charge gang enhancements where it was appropriate, because we have to stop people from being able to bring young people into gangs. But that responsibility is on us. And it is not for us to, my view is that it's not for us to blame the young person who gets caught up. It's up to us to divert them and to make sure that they get to have a different life than what the gang would provide for them.
It's not that complicated. When somebody's making a choice, when I was a kid, I went to the school and I thought, okay, let's go to law school. Versus one person is saying, well, let's join the gang, okay? When I go to the law school, when I graduate and become a lawyer, that kid who made a decision to join the gang is gonna be something else. So in my view, it's a career choice. It's not an innocent choice. It's a very well-informed decision. And I believe they don't deserve a second chance. As a district attorney, I will be prosecuting them as an adult.
I have to ask a follow-up then on that. Is there an age that you would consider for charges as an adult versus consider them a juvenile?
So most of the time, the person who are recruited by the career criminals, they have the age 16 and up, but you cannot put an age on it. So if you are saying this is a factor, if the kid is so young, we can have some exceptions for that. But the rule is if you are making a choice to join a gang, even with your elder brother or somebody else or somebody motivated you, it means you have a wrong direction. The rehabilitation should come from the person himself. If I'm actually spreading it, hey, you know what, come to me and I'm gonna forgive you, that's not forgiveness. That's the breach of public safety. As a district attorney, if I'm doing this, you don't need me. You have enough crime in the county, and you can do it on your own. To increase the crime, you need a district attorney who is hard on crime, who is setting an example that, hey, you know what, if you do bad stuff, there are consequences for that. There is no exception for that. Exceptions, yes, you have to prove for it, you have to earn for it.
Thank you.
This question is for Ms. Price. The current DA reversed many of your directives. Would you reinstate all of them? And if so, how would you handle pushback from attorneys in the office who are loyal to Dickson and her way of running the office? You have 2 minutes.
The current DA reversed all of our directives. There were 2 special directives that she signed on day 1, rescinding those directives. Just like Donald Trump on day 1, I'm going to sign an executive order and I'm going to get rid of as many of the things that Joe Biden had in place, and then I'm going to reach back and undo what President Obama did. So we have someone that is committed to that kind of backward reactionary thinking. It is not appropriate for someone coming into the office. I will contrast that with the way that I came into the office. We did a survey of all of the employees and asked them, what do you need? What they said to us, we need more staff, we need more training, we need mental health and wellness support, and we made it and we need better tools with which to do our job. We made it our business to do all of those things across the board. For the advocates, we did one-on-one interviews and surveys of every advocate, and everything that the Division of Victim Witness Advocates asked me to do, I did it. Everything that the inspectors mentioned that they wanted, I did it. Our district attorneys we negotiated a contract. They are the second highest paid district attorneys in the Bay Area, surpassed only by Santa Clara County. So we gave merit increases over 2 years and an 11% negotiated raise in the contract. The resistance that we saw from day 1 from deputies that left the office, they were not fired, they chose to leave the office, was based on ideology. It was not based on working conditions. It was not based on policy decisions, because I had not issued any policies in January, February. It was based on their resistance to the change that the voters voted to have, and their loyalty not to Ursula Jones Dickson, but to Nancy O'Malley, who was their district attorney for 13 years, and before that, she was the chief assistant for 10 years. Some of those people, many of those people left. Many of them have been rehired by the interim district attorney, because she is, in fact, the legacy heir to Tom Orloff, who prosecuted the Black Panther Party and called Huey P. Newton a thug when the man died. She is the heir to Nancy O'Malley, who believed in supervising the death penalty. Both of those district attorneys covered up and were part of a serious pattern of prosecutorial misconduct.
Ms. Price, we're at time.
I'm sorry. Okay.
No, it's a ball. Go ahead. That's fine. We'll ask a similar question to you, Mr. Krishnan. The current DA has reversed many of the policies that Ms. Price implemented. Has the pendulum swung too far in the opposite direction, or is this a needed course correction from your opponent's leadership of office?
So, when you talk about the policies, we can have policies, but the problem is not with the policies. The problem we are having right now is the transparency. The district attorney office is doing everything almost in the closed door. When Ms. Price came into the office, I tried to find the policies. No, the inner office, yes, they know about the policies. Same thing for the current district attorney. As a public, there is no visibility on that. As a district attorney, yes, I'm going to make a policy. I'm going to make a policy which are going to help the county, which are going to help the public safety. But the policies which I'm going to make, they will actually put the transparency and the accountability to the district attorney office first. Because if you are not clean on your own, you cannot clean anybody. You cannot clean the county. So you have to set an example. I'm going to make a dashboard which will have all the public policy available that, hey, you know what, if you do this, these are the possible outcomes. That goes for the minor, that goes for the adult, that goes for the seasoned criminals, that goes for the assistant district attorney as well, so that the public will know that, okay, my district attorney is doing this, nothing else. On the same dashboard, they can actually see what is going on. There was an arrest right in my neighborhood. What happened to that? They can actually go and have a look. So I don't have to come to the public, hey, you know what, I let this guy go, or I'm actually asking for the higher sentencing for this guy. The public should know anyway. So I don't have to actually come to that. They should know, they should be having all the access and all the tools to have this information. That's called transparency. Once you have this transparency, you are all clean. Nobody can misguide you. That's the accountability I'm going to bring to the district attorney office. Once we have that, that's the change.
I would like to respond.
Ms. Price, we'll give you 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Sure. We published both of our special directives on the website where we had them listed. We also worked for more than a year with the Prosecutors Collaborative to create a public dashboard. That dashboard went live in January of 2025. It allowed the public to access data on the review and the prosecution of cases. It had our goal was to provide detailed information on case referrals and cases filed, and the first prosecutor performance indicator focused on efficiency and capacity. It was created through the collaboration with the Prosecution Collaborative Initiative. It went live in January of 2025, and when the new interim district attorney came in February, she took it down. We also created an ombudsman position for the public to be able to report misconduct by prosecutions.
We're at time. Thank you, Ms. Price. I want a quick follow-up for both of you. And just 30 seconds on this particular question. Are there any specific policies that the incumbent has enacted that you would undo? 30 seconds. Go ahead.
There was one case, Stephen Taylor. So there is a blame game in both the district attorney office. She's blaming that Ms. Price didn't do anything. And the public is saying, okay, no, the case was bad. So the Stephen Taylor case was a police shooting. And the current district attorney actually filed a dismissal in it. What I would have done as a district attorney, my job is to let the jury decide, let the court decide. This is not my job to actually dismiss the case and let the people go. You can play the blame game. My job as a district attorney is to prosecute all the criminals. I'm not the judge. I'm not there to decide what's going to happen. I'll take my best chances to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. Can I do it or not? That's up to the jury.
Great. I gave him about a minute, so I'll give you about a minute to respond. Go ahead.
I absolutely agree. The dismissal of the Stephen Taylor case was a travesty. The treatment of his grandmother, Addie Kitchen, was abhorrent, and we should never condone the manner in which that case was prosecuted and then dismissed by the interim district attorney. It's one of the most outrageous things that she has done, and the only policy that we have seen coming from her is that she will not prosecute law enforcement, which makes it very very, very dangerous for us in the time of Trump. She dismissed Stephen Taylor. She dismissed the sheriff's deputies. We're back to pay to play where she won't. She dismissed the sheriff's cases in the Maurice Monk case, Vanetta Martin. These are very dangerous actions by the interim district attorney.
All right, we're going to switch gears here and discuss mental health. And this question is for both of you. Mr. Krishan, we'll start with you. Proposition 36 increased penalties for certain drug and theft crimes, and it was approved by voters last election. Do you support Proposition 36? And now that it's law, will you implement it, given it offers prosecutors discretion in many cases?
So, as a voter, and I respect the opinion of all the voters. And as a in my personal opinion, I do agree with that. There is a reason there was an amendment. There is a reason there was a Prop 36. So as a prosecutor discretion, what I can do, I'll see the case-to-case facts. But most of the time, yes, if I can go for the enhancement or the higher sentencing, I will go for that, unless the defendant proves it that they are worthy of any lesser crime or any diversion.
Thank you. Ms. Price.
I believe that the principles and the theories behind Proposition 36 were inappropriate and inaccurate, and I disagree with them. However, personally, as a Minister of Justice, as the prosecutor, the chief law enforcement officer, and a constitutional lawyer for 40-plus years, I believe in the rule of law, and it's my responsibility to apply the law. How it's done is to make sure that it's done fairly. We invested in alternatives for drug addiction, for homelessness, for people committing relatively minor crimes under misdemeanor statutes. Prop 36 changes that dynamic to some extent. Our focus was to create an organized retail theft unit that focused on the fences, that focused on the big fish in the pond who were undermining and destabilizing businesses. However, the public made a choice. The law is such that we now have to focus and be more rigid with people who in fact have problems, perhaps drug problems or addiction problems, but that doesn't mean that we can't do both. I believe that safety and justice go together, and that we always have to seek a balance about how we apply the law. So that's my view of it.
A quick follow-up for both of you, and just a brief response, if you may. How should the DA's office handle repeat offenders who are struggling with mental illness, substance abuse, or both? Ms. Price?
Sure. One of the things that we did focus on, and as your district attorney, I do believe we have to focus on repeat offenders. We have to make sure that people returning from prison, that we do our very best to provide reentry services and to partner with reentry community-based reentry organizations to prevent recidivism, which is a driver of repeat offenders. We have to partner with organizations that provide mental health resources and services for people with addiction problems, whether it's alcohol or narcotics, to make sure that they are not driven to commit crimes to support a habit that has, undermined their mental stability. So I think we have to do both. We have to hold people accountable, no question about it. And there are some people that I don't believe that mental health or mental illness is a crime in and of itself. There are people who commit certain crimes that are so unacceptable when they're mentally ill, and the law has a provision for that. We had a unit in our office that does address people with mental illness, and there's the laws provide for that.
Thank you. Mr. Krishan?
Repeat offender and the mental illness. So let me make it clear. They don't go together. The district attorney office is not a social worker. The district attorney office is not here to fix the society. The district attorney is a chief law enforcement officer. His or her job is to enforce the law. Okay. Now, the repeat offenders, I don't know how many times they have done it. I don't know how many times they're going to do it. I don't know what they have done first time. The second offense is a gradual upgrade or a lesser offense. But once somebody is doing a crime and again, they should not be given a free chance because of their mental illness. That's a different issue. I'm gonna treat the law for everybody. It's the same for everybody. If you have the mental illness, and if you can prove it, yes, we can actually use that exception. But to begin with, the legal system is for everybody. It's equal for same. You cannot let the person go to do something, and that's repeat offender multiple times. Each time you have to let the person go, that okay, I'll let it go because of some medical issue or mental issue. They should get a problem, but criminal is not the part of that. We can make some exceptions, but that's not the rule.
Thank you, Mr. Krishan. This question is for both candidates. The Trump administration has deployed the National Guard to Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., Memphis, and Portland. And last year, the president almost dispatched more than 100 federal agents, including from U.S. Customs and Border Protection, into San Francisco and Oakland. Should this happen again, as DA, how would you respond to the deployment of the military or federal immigration officers in Alameda County? Mr. Krishan, you can go first.
So they're highly equipped. They can outgun each and every cop in the Alameda County. So as a district attorney office, I cannot go on the street and I cannot expect the law enforcement authorities to arrest them. What I can do, I can make few rules. In fact, the Alameda County, they did make a rule that ICE is not allowed on the Alameda County grounds. For their violation of whatever they are not allowed to do it, or whatever they are doing it, it's not within their authority. That can be prosecuted later. But at that time, I believe the district attorney office is helpless.
Ms. Price?
We did have the Custom and Border Patrol come here, and they did assault a pastor who lives and ministers to people in this community, and nothing was done. Our law enforcement officials looked and did nothing. Our district attorney looked and did nothing. We do not want a district attorney who's going to sit in the corner and look. On day one, I will join the national coalition of state prosecutors who have formed together. It's called FAFO, Fight Against Federal Overreach, because prosecutors are on the front lines, and we should be on the front lines of holding ICE and federal agents accountable when they violate state law. Thank you. Our governor and our Attorney General has issued a directive to all law enforcement agencies, including prosecutors and local police, that if federal agents come into your community and they violate the law, you need to file a police report. And with a police report, the district attorney can and should prosecute. No one is above the law. You do not get to kidnap our residents. You do not get to leave our children in the street. You don't get to have car accidents and leave the scene of the accident. You do not get to assault praying pastors in the face and nothing happens to you under my administration.
Thank you, Ms. Price.
Okay. This question is for both of you. We'll start with Mr. Krishan. Is it the district attorney's role to prosecute federal agents who use force during protests in the course of immigration enforcement or in any other scenario?
So if they are here in Alameda County and they are acting outside of their authority, then the answer is yes. The district attorney office can prosecute the federal law officer. And as Ms. Price said, nobody is above the law. When they are violating any law in the Alameda County, the district attorney office is responsible to prosecute them, and they can, and I will if I get selected.
Ms. Price.
We have seen federal agents kill, assault, kidnap United States citizens, as well as residents whose documentation does not meet the legal test according to Donald Trump. because we know people who had their papers, who were waiting for asylum, who did go to court and follow every rule we asked them to, and yet they still have been kidnapped and taken and deported out of this country and sent to places they don't even know about. We know that that is happening not only here. There's been a surge in Northern California of arrests and detentions and deportations occurring at federal courthouses where people go for their hearing because they're told that they're supposed to go there. I talked to a gentleman in Chinatown who told me he saw ICE jump out the truck, snatch some kid on the street, and put him in the truck and drive away. It is happening here. And it was not unexpected that eventually they would kill someone because they are not trained. They have been given bonuses. Donald Trump has recruited his own Gestapo police force. And wherever they go, they do not respect the Constitution or the rights of the people who live there. That is unacceptable. And again, prosecutors have to be on the front lines of defending our civil and constitutional rights, and that's something that I have been doing for 40 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Price. This next question is for you. You mentioned the case backlog earlier. I know you said that you had addressed it. Dickson claimed that she inherited a charging backlog of over 2,000 cases and a demoralized office. Can you respond to that? What would you do differently a second time around?
As I indicated, we discovered a backlog of approximately 1,000 cases. I am not sure at all where my successor says she found 2,000 cases. And because the public dashboard that we created to track cases and provide that kind of information is no longer public, I can't rely upon what she's telling you. I would not rely upon it. We created the public dashboard so the public could see how many cases there are, how are they being processed, where are they located. We had 5 separate charging locations. All of those locations were headed up by seasoned, experienced, veteran prosecutors. Jim Meehan headed up the East County Hall of Justice. He never told me, he's been there 38 years. His father hired him 38 years ago. Jim Meehan never said that there was a backlog of thousands of cases. In fact, he claimed that there was no backlog at the Echo J Hall of Justice. There was no backlog, under my understanding, by Katie Koval, who was a long-term member of the DA's office. She did not tell us that she had a backlog. The only backlog that we discovered was at the Wiley Manual Courthouse. And once I met with the team there and they told me, we've always had a backlog, Madam DA. I said, we're not going to have a backlog anymore. And I created a special team of prosecutors to start processing those cases. We modified their procedures so that they began tracking the statute of limitations, which they were not doing. In terms of a demoralized office, that office became extremely demoralized when the Board of Supervisors appointed the most conservative person that they could pick, because the 200 people that I hired who brought life and innovation to the DA's office knew that they anticipated and they were fearful that the things were going to go backward, and they have done that.
Thank you, Ms. Price.
Mr. Krishan, this question is for you. California's new second look resentencing data shows an extremely low reoffense rate. In fact, 0 people resentenced for exceptional conduct committed a new violent felony within 3 years. Given that data, what is your philosophy on resentencing, and would you initiate resentencing reviews at all?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. This is about resentencing. The data shows that 0 people resentenced for exceptional conduct committed a new violent felony within 3 years. So what is your philosophy on resentencing?
So the law exists for a reason. So when somebody commits a crime for the resentencing and they show the behavior Can you repeat the question again? Sorry about that.
Well,
I was thinking something else.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, again, this is about California's new second look resentencing data, and it shows that there's 0 people that have been resentenced for conduct, if they've committed a new violent felony within 3 years. So basically, people are adjusting once they've been prosecuted. So, do you have a philosophy on resentencing?
So when the people, they show the behavior that they are improving, as a district attorney office, I think it is a progress. Okay? But just because they are improving, that should not be enough. I have to make sure that the improvement is a long-term improvement, and we have to keep that data just in case if they do commit crime again, we can use those as an enhancement. However, there are some true cases, they show the real interest in improving. So for the resentencing as a district attorney office, I can use my discretion for the behavioral therapy, for the rehabilitation of the people, if they show the real interest in it. It should come from the defendant himself or herself.
Thank you.
This question, I'm sorry.
Well, that was specific to Mr. Krishan, but I don't mind if you want to chime in on that as well. I mean, you go ahead. We'll give you a moment.
I definitely want to chime in on that. My view on resentencing is consistent with the law. In 2018, the California legislature passed AB Assembly Bill 2942, which gave prosecutors the power to initiate at their discretion resentencing. The court had it before, the California Department of Corrections had it before, but then prosecutors were given that responsibility as well because of the legislature recognized the need for resentencing. And just this year, UC Berkeley Law published a report that showed that under my administration, we established guidelines for resentencing. We prioritized minors who were tried and convicted as adults. We prioritized women who had served more than half their sentence. We prioritized people sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, and people still serving 3-strike sentences that we all know were unfair. And so our administration, coupled with the work that was done before under the O'Malley administration, we saved California taxpayers over $234 million per year by resentencing 165 people.
Thank you so much. This question is for both candidates. When working with law enforcement agencies, what is your philosophy when it comes to how the DA should balance accountability in cases of misconduct and maintaining working relationships with agencies that refer cases to your office for prosecution? Ms. Price, let's start with you.
Thank you for that question, very much so. It is very important to recognize for the people of Alameda County that as district attorney, I am the top law enforcement official in this county, which means I am responsible for all of the law enforcement agencies and officials in this county, including the sheriff. And as your district attorney, it's my obligation to retain my independence so that I can hold law enforcement accountable when it is appropriate and necessary. And it usually is appropriate and necessary. We had a series of cases out of Oakland where they had officers driving drunk while on duty. As a district attorney, I should not turn a blind eye to that practice. And in fact, I called the chief of police, the then Oakland Police Chief Floyd Mitchell, and told him, I think this is a problem. When we had deaths in the Alameda County Jail at a higher rate amongst the state, one of the highest death rates in the state, I called to account the sheriff of this county. At the same time, I was a regular and participating member of the Alameda County Chiefs of Police and Sheriff's Association, which is our law enforcement monthly weekly meeting that we all get together. I attended both of the annual retreats that organization sponsored. And so I had a working relationship with the chiefs of the police and the sheriff and their higher up officials, and that was my responsibility. So I do understand that law enforcement official, the highest one under the Constitution, that I have to work with all of the administrations of the various law enforcement agencies. We have more than 20 law enforcement agencies that operate in Alameda County. You can't just put emphasis on one. Oakland Police is a large one, but we have the California Highway Patrol. I met with the regional people and we worked together. And what the public should understand is that there's a difference between the managers and your police chiefs and the people who run the departments and the police unions, or excuse me, the police associations.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Mr. Krishan?
I have a huge respect for all the cops, the law enforcement officers there on the ground. They put their life every day for all of us. Okay. That being said, the relationship has to be there and has to be professional. As a district attorney, we cannot have friend relationship, and that can create a conflict of interest. As a district attorney office, what I can do, I can have policies that if there is a minor crime and the evidences are fine, and then I'm talking about the crime committed by the law enforcement authorities. The district attorney office can investigate that. When the crime involves shooting or death, I would refer that case to the Attorney General so that we can have the independent investigation on that specific case. For the day-to-day relationship with the law enforcement officer, what I would suggest in my office, we can implement the Brady system that will require assistant district attorney office, and will keep an eye on the law enforcement officer to make sure that what kind of behavior the specific law enforcement officer is having, what types of disciplinary actions they have had, how many times they've been convicted. So we can have that system that create a transparency in the system, and that whole thing can be published on the same dashboard so that the public can see it.
Mr. Krishan, this question is for both of you, but I want to start with Mr. Krishan. Many residents of Alameda County have concerns about violent crime, property crime, gun violence. What specific actions would you take to reduce crime in Alameda County over the next 12 months?
So when you say what I can do to reduce crime, you talk about an island. You cannot achieve an island unless you have a boat. And you cannot go to the island in a day. So it's a process. So in the last many years, the system is closed. Whatever the district attorney is doing, nobody knows about that. As a district attorney office, I'll make the policy clear, visible to the public and the person who are planning to commit a crime. So they would know that, okay, if I'm doing this, I'm gonna go to the jail. There will be consequences. So for property crimes, the consequences are different. We cannot have same rule for all the criminals. For the violent crimes, for the gun crimes will have the enhancement. That's the most strict portion I'm going to take. But for other crimes, the policy is, yes, they have to face the consequences. There is no free pass. There is no free way.
Thank you, Mr. Krishan. And Ms. Price?
Again, for the most serious crimes, we tackled gun violence. This is my 2024 gun violence report, tackling gun violence epidemic in Alameda County. We worked on this for more than 6 months with the Department of Public Health. We got a $5.5 million grant from the state to work with the courts and local law enforcement agencies, actually the Oakland Police Department, to address gun violence restraining orders. We got a $100,000 grant from Kaiser to address gun violence and domestic violence. So we were tackling gun violence, and I will resume those efforts. We were addressing human trafficking, which is a very serious problem. We're the third largest hub for human trafficking in the country. That is totally unacceptable. And we were partnering with the local community, the San Antonio community, and local agencies to address, and the U.S. Attorney's Office, to address human trafficking in our community. For property crimes, we got the second highest grant from the state to create an organized retail theft unit. My interim successor has disbanded that unit. We created a gender justice department, a bureau, to start to really address crimes against women and children, whether it's rape, domestic violence, child sexual exploitation, or child abuse. These are major problems in this county. We brought online the electronic child support reporting system. We didn't get it online. This is the work that was interrupted by those who felt, the billionaires who thought they knew better how to administer justice in this county, and they misled the public about what we were actually doing.
A quick follow-up for both of you, and just a quick response, 30 seconds if you would. Where do you stand on mandatory minimums, Ms. Price?
Mandatory minimums is the extreme opposite of what people claim is of taking away prosecutorial discretion. Every case requires a prosecutor to look at fairly, without regard to your race, your gender, your wealth, or your zip code in this county, because there are disparities depending on where you live in Alameda County. And so a mandatory minimum ties someone's hand, and it's essentially unfair because it presumes that every person deserves the same minimum punishment. And we know that that is not true. That is a backward way of addressing crime, and it's been refuted by the data for years now.
Mr. Krishan.
Same question, the mandatory minimum?
Yes.
So you cannot have one rule for all. When you talk about the mandatory and the minimum, it means you are taking, okay, irrespective of everything, you're gonna get this much. That's not fair, that's not justice either. It can depend on the crime. Somebody is doing a violent crime, yes, there has to be a mandatory minimum. There is no free pass. If somebody is doing the crime again and again, so first crime we can have little leeway, but the second crime there has to be a mandatory minimum. That's my policy, because if we are not doing it, we are giving a message to the society that the first time it is free or there is no mandatory minimum, you may get something, you may not get something, or even the second time or the third time. That creates another breed of criminals, offenders, that keeps our society, that makes our society unsafe. So as a district attorney, if I am not giving the message out that, hey, you know what, these are the consequences, think like that. If you're filling a gas 1 gallon, there is a price. There is a fixed price. So if you do commit a crime, there is a price.
Thank you.
Can I respond?
I would like to move, I mean, did he invoke your name, or can we move on to, we have so many other questions. If you don't mind, we're trying to get as many topics to you guys as possible. Go ahead, Alan. Yeah.
This question is for Ms. Price. The current DA has said that when she took over the office from you, many of the staff lacked experience and needed training. How would you recruit and retain qualified and experienced prosecutors?
I would recruit and retain qualified prosecutors in the same way that we did in 2023 and 2024. I must respectfully disagree with the interim district attorney. We hired prosecutors from Marin, from San Francisco, from Santa Clara, from Sonoma, from Sacramento, and my message to all of them was come home. If you were raised in Alameda County or you're connected to this county, you have family in this county, we need you to come home. And people did. I hired the foremost expert in domestic violence, Evanthea Pappas, who had more than 30 years as a prosecutor. She came to work for us in Alameda County, and the interim successor removed her from the Family Justice Center, removed her from her post as a supervisor of that. We brought in and my chief assistant, District Attorney Royal Roberts, was a former general counsel for Peralta Community College District. He has a doctorate in business administration and finance. She barely spoke to him when she got in the office. She did not understand the budget, and she would not talk to him about how to present the budget to the Board of Supervisors. We had lawyers who had decades of prosecutorial experience. The head of my public accountability unit that she disbanded and removed, he had decades as a prosecutor in San Francisco. So I do disagree. The heads of each of our agencies, Tiffany Gibson, a resident of Hayward, her husband was the former police chief of Hayward. She had decades as a prosecutor in San Francisco and then in Alameda County. She was the head of our Civil Rights Bureau. She was removed. So these things the public needs to understand. If you look at the people that we hired, we did an outstanding job of bringing outstanding talent to work for the residents of Alameda County. And it is disrespectful to say that they were unqualified or needed training.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Mr. Krishan.
The whole Bay Area is struggling with that question, the employee retainership. How do you retain your employee? How do you get the employee loyalty? I have so many clients, they have businesses, they have shops, and they have the HR department. The sole job of the HR department is to keep the employee, hire the employee, and keep within the company. That involves giving them the higher salary, giving them the respect. District Attorney Office is no different. We have a specific budget. We need to see that can we actually use that money in a better way. So we need to have better benefits for the district attorney. We have to have a very good environment as an employer so that the assistant district attorney and the other staff can work in the district attorney office. If the person, they go to the job to make money, that's the first thing they do. If they are not making enough money, they will leave the office. The second is they should be feeling satisfied in the office. So if we are giving them the work satisfaction in the district attorney office, we are giving them the scope of work and they are doing good job, we can appraise them, we can promote them, we can recognize them. That's how you retain the employees. We can use the budget as a leverage.
Thank you, Mr. Krishan. Mr. Krishan, you're up against an incumbent who took over from the previous DA, who's here, who was removed, and that caused a lot of instability. Why should voters switch directions again and let you take over, and how would you minimize the instability this would invariably create? So, I'm going to use a different word for that. When you talk about the instability, it means that people, they don't want to change anything. The Alameda County, Oakland, Hayward, San Leandro, the whole Alameda County is being affected by that. It is keep happening for a long time. And if you don't change anything, nothing will change. There is a reason we have the election. There is a reason we have the Constitution has given the power to the voters so that they can make change. It is not about being stable. It is about keep moving. So you need to have a person every 4 years. Same thing for the president, same thing for the district attorney, same thing for the mayor. Not just one person. Otherwise, you can have one appointed person and get away with the election. So it is not about the instability. It is about embrace the change, get the new ideas. Ms. Price.
I agree that for 75 years, we had an appointed district attorney and it was just passed down, passed down, passed down. And the office literally deteriorated and was stuck in some very old practices. I ran a law firm, and what I walked into in the Alameda County District Attorney's office was like, it felt like and looked like the Stone Age in terms of the deterioration of the physical plant, in terms of the technology, in terms of the practices and procedures that no one had looked at for years. And that happened under the administration of Nancy O'Malley and Tom Orloff. When the recall happened, I warned that it would create instability in our situation. We had an election in '22, we had one in '24, we have one now in '26, and we will have another one in '28. That is the consequence of not respecting the will of the voters in 2022. But we're here now, and so we can't go back and undo it. What we have to do is get back on track to where we were making progress, bringing the office forward with technology, with people with new ideas, with folks who are invested in this community, with diversifying the office. I hired 17 inspectors because that division was woefully understaffed. We increased the Victim Witness Advocates Division by 37% and diversified it. I hired the first transgender victim advocate. I hired more African Americans. I hired more Asians. I hired more Latino advocates, because that's what Alameda County looks like. We can't go backwards to what the office looked like from the 1960s. That's not fair to any of us. It was a disruption in '24. We're here now. We have to move forward.
Thank you, Ms. Price. This question is for Ms. Price. You denied Berkeley Scanner editor Emily Raguso entry to a press conference, leading to backlash from the press and First Amendment advocates. What lessons did you learn from that experience, and how would you engage with the press in a second term should you be granted an opportunity?
We did exclude her, and we took accountability for that. We felt that we needed to have standards by which press people were actually identified as press people. The problem which you have with bloggers and someone in her position, there's no editorial control. There's no oversight. There's no accountability or reliability in what is reported in a blog. I know because I have my own blog. And so we learned, however, from working, or the lesson from the First Amendment Coalition and the outcry, is that even bloggers have the right to come into a public space and take pictures and write whatever they want to, even if it's not accurate. You have to allow that. And unfortunately, that's the age we live in, is disinformation and misinformation is rampant. And anybody can say anything about what a public official is or is not doing. In my term, we had weekly press conferences. So we excluded her from one press conference, but we had, starting in January of 2025, we had weekly press conferences. So she was able to attend, 51 other, or I guess I left in December, so she was able to attend at least 48 other press conferences. We published a weekly newsletter for the public to know what we were doing. We published a monthly newsletter for the public to know what we were doing. My view with what I would address with the media in the second term, we will resume our weekly press conferences. One of the things that I know I need to do differently is in the first 90 days, I will spend a lot more time talking to the media, which I couldn't do in my first term, because I spent my time working on an office that was disorganized, dysfunctional, and badly in need of leadership. But I've learned that I have to spend some of that time has to go to the media.
Just to be fair, the Berkeley Scanner is not a blog. It is a legitimate news organization, and there was, some speculation at the time that maybe the response was because that outlet had been especially critical of your administration. Do you want to respond to that?
The reason why I believe she's a blog is because I don't believe there's an editorial person. And there were times when we wanted to request that the editor look at some of the reporting, and she is the editor and the sole employee and the only person that had the ability to look at whatever the mistake was as she did. And my understanding is she wasn't willing to do that. She has a journalistic background, but we did find that a lot of the reporting was inaccurate and was violated the journalistic standards. My understanding is you're not supposed to rely solely upon anonymous sources, and there was a lot of that in the early days of my administration. And the coverage was not fair. But the reason why we excluded her was because we were trying to determine what the standards should be for people who were actually going to be admitted to our press conferences. And my understanding is that after that, the Oakland Police Department initiated a clear policy that you have to have press credentials to be able to come into their press conference. I'm not sure how that worked out. It didn't seem like, there was much of an outcry about that, but, that's just the way that it was viewed at that time with respect to us. We did allow her to come into whatever press conference she wanted to come after that, and my recollection is that she never came. So.
And not to harp on this particular topic since it's a couple of years old, but I will say there are a lot of increasingly independent journalists that are going out on their own, and I would look at myself as an example who's worked for mainstream media and then starting our own enterprise. So I do think increasingly you're going to have more interaction with independent solo people. So just something for you guys to keep in mind, not to comment on that case, but there are increasingly many journalists that are going out on their own. And speaking of that, do you feel the media had a role in the way you were recalled? Certainly, I saw the media coverage myself, looking at my colleagues who have done interviews with you, and that certainly led to an impression of how you were running that office.
Again, that impression was driven initially, I believe, by the reporting of the Berkeley Scanner, who came into our office and interviewed people who disagreed with the new direction. And what we saw was every employee who wanted to have an outlet for his or her disagreement had free access to her and that reporting. And so there was a misperception created from the very beginning. I recall some of the headlines in the San Francisco Chronicle. I became the embattled DA very quickly. And one of the reporters in San Francisco criticized the media, and I think rightfully so, that there was a lust for the conflict. And I understood that I became clickbait, that my name was used to sell papers and get people's attentions, and that the headlines were often inconsistent with the actual story that was written. And so I do think that the media acted in some instances very irresponsibly. We had one case where we just recently brought it to the attention of a reporter who's here today in his station, where they reported that I did not, or I dropped the life without the possibility of parole sentence or charges in the Kevin Nishida case, and that absolutely was not true. And if you looked at the record, the charging documents, it was not true, but the media reported it as if it were.
And I didn't want to get this into a back and forth on the media, because people can bash the media all day long. But in light of that, I do want to give Mr. Krishan a chance to talk about the media. Obviously, you've not been in this kind of position with that kind of scrutiny. Tell me about how you would address, you've talked about transparency during your comments today. Certainly, there's a lot of scrutiny that comes with being the district attorney. How would you approach things in light of the current DA, the way she's approaching things, and of course, the way former DA Price did?
So when you talk about the media, that's not just the media. It's like nowadays everybody has a phone. They are recording it and they can actually post it on a social media. Most of the time, most of us actually, we get the news through the social media. I don't think so anybody has any subscription or any physical paper. So the media is changing. Like you said, nowadays anybody can be a reporter. Can they report anything? So when it comes to, can I allow one reporter or some other reporter in my office? I told you, as a district attorney, I'm going to have a dashboard. In dashboard, everything will be available. On the top of that, I'm going to have my social media page, Facebook page. everything. So I don't think so anybody has to come to me to ask for that. They will have that answer already available. If they want to come to, I'm going to have an open door policy. They can come. I'm the district attorney for the people, not for myself. So yes, if somebody has to ask, they don't have to have like a group of press conference or a specific schedule for the press conference. If I have some time available, yes, I'm always available, not just Monday, Tuesday, weekly, bi-weekly. Whenever I have some time available, I can go to the Facebook Live. I can say, okay, hey, you know what? This is what I have done, or this is what is pending. Let's do something tomorrow. So that's how the media works nowadays. Nobody watches like 30-minute news section. 30-minute second is good enough to give you the update that today I'm good, today I'm bad, something like that.
Let's speak just a moment, both of you, to address really the elephant in the room, that Ursula Jones Dickson is not here. Should she be here? Mr. Krishan?
I believe yes, for two reasons. One, this is a very good platform, and thanks for the Forest, Alex Hall, and you, and all the people who made it here. This is a very good opportunity to interact. I don't see any reason to reject all of this. That's the one reason. Second reason, I want to meet her. I did meet her, but no, didn't get to talk to her. So yeah, that's the second reason. She should be here.
Ms. Price?
The interim appointed district attorney should definitely engage with the public in a platform such as this. And I am also appreciative that you all are here and that the university has graciously opened up its doors and created an opportunity for us to engage with the program, with the public. The interim appointed district attorney is not accountable to the public. She was appointed. She is the heir apparent of Tom Orloff and Nancy O'Malley, and I don't believe that she actually cares what the public thinks about that. And so she had the opportunity to come here. She was invited, and I can attest to the fact that the organizers made every effort and invited her repeatedly to come here and gave her every opportunity to say yes. And the fact that she chose not to participate today, I think speaks volumes about where her commitment is to our community.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. This question is for both candidates. What would success look like for you 6 months into this job and 2 years into this job? Ms. Price, we'll start with you.
6 months, crime is way down. 2 years, crime is way down. That we have a robust diversion court that is helping us address our 5150 crisis, that we have looked across the system, and the safety net that is supposed to be helping people in this county actually does help victims, does help witnesses, that I have the funding to provide more, to hire more victim advocates, to hire more inspectors, that I have the ability, I have the funding to protect witnesses. I represented the family of a witness to a homicide who was killed because he was a witness. So I understand that we don't have relocation services and victim and witness protection services that we should have in this county if we are going to tackle crime. That the gun violence in this community would be reduced to almost nil. That we would have better resources for victims of domestic violence. That human trafficking would no longer be so prevalent. That we are like number 3, that we would be maybe number 20, okay? Because it's a problem and it does take time. So it's going to take more than 6 months or more than a year. But we've got to keep making that effort. And that I would have a better relationship with law enforcement, that they would accept the fact that as the chief law enforcement officer of this county, it is my responsibility to hold you accountable, to work with you, but also to hold you accountable.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Price. I'm going to start with you for a question for both of you. The demographics of Alameda. Oh, my fault. Go right ahead, Mr. Krishan.
Mr. Krishan.
That's okay. So we are here not in a day. It took so many years to have this kind of law and order. So if you expect that I have a magic wand, it's not going to happen. But yes, it has to start, and we have to keep it working. It is not about the perfection. It is about the consistency. So if we keep doing something good every day, one day everything will be good. That being said, in 2 months, what I can do, we can have a public portal, we can have a dashboard for everybody, we can have the data collected from the arrest record, we can have the data collected from the Department of Justice, Alameda courts, we can have the data from all the sources and make a dashboard so that we will see, okay, these are the problematic areas. Oakland is not that bad. If you see the arrest record, it is about the Hayward, San Leandro area. So we have to see where are the problematic areas, and we can actually focus our resources on that area. So that's the first 2 months. Once we actually figure that out, that okay, we have to put our resources, nobody has unlimited resources. So as a district attorney, we have to focus on resources, that okay, these are the areas. Now, the second part is 70% of the crime, they are the minor crime. They are not the felonies, they are the minor crimes. And if we set an example, hey, you know what, if you break in, if you do burglary, if you break the glass of a car, you're gonna get the jail time, you're gonna get the punishment. We can actually reduce that, because sometimes the people, they learn by seeing it, by facing, okay, this guy did something, now he has more money and no punishment or no consequences for that. If we set an example for that, in 2 years, I believe we're going to actually take it down to a very low level. If you think that I can actually make it to 0 in 2 years, no, that's not going to happen. But that's the aim I will actually project.
Thank you, Mr. Krishan.
Can I speak to that?
I think we had you address that, but we have so many more questions we're trying to get in, if you don't mind. Well, yeah, I mean, we had both of you responded to that, right? Okay. Let's ask about demographics here. Ms. Price, the demographics of Alameda County have changed considerably. We have almost 40% Asian Americans now in Alameda County. About a third of the population is Hispanic. It's grown precipitously, especially towards the eastern part of the district. And there are kind of newer crimes that we've seen that are targeting certain people based on their faith, based on their backgrounds. We've seen this all over the Bay Area. We have people snatching chains from older Indian women, for example, who wear gold sometimes under their clothing. And we've had repeated crimes of older women being targeted because of their ethnic identity. We're having the San Francisco Indian consulate was attacked twice, almost that there were 2 arson attempts in San Francisco on the Indian consulate. Again, a targeted group, the FBI, the San Francisco Police Department, no one has solved that crime. And that's frankly an international crime when you involved an embassy of that nature. What is being done? What level of sophistication would you place, knowing that you have very diverse communities, people with all different socioeconomic backgrounds? Will you change strategy should you get a second term? And this will go to Mr. Krishan, about knowing that there are people who are doing brazen attacks, going to jewelry stores with groups of people, bashing in jewelry stores and robbing people at gunpoint, all for social media clicks.
So, to be clear, the major deterrent to crime is not prosecution. Criminologists have shown that the major deterrent to crime is the threat of being caught. And so I can't obviously control or speak to San Francisco Police Department's ability or even the FBI's ability to catch people committing international crimes in San Francisco. What I can tell you is that under my administration, we did have a strategy to catch people who engaged in organized retail theft and people who were outside of that realm, but actually the criminals who were doing the organized retail theft were also also doing sort of these one-on-one crimes. We did have a strategy to address, and I would resume that strategy to address young people who we found, what we experienced in Alameda County was that we had young people who were who were driving around with hoodies and masks and driving in cars or getting them masked together. We just had another similar incident like that in the city of Alameda. It was reported at one of the malls. We've seen it in Union City at I believe Southland Mall. These things are not, this is not new, my friend. I hate to tell you, this has been going on since the pandemic. And it really, the office that I walked into post-pandemic in January of 2023 did not have any real strategy to address the street crime or the high-level crime. We began the process of focusing on organized retail theft, of dealing with the fences, who actually are the ones that provide the pathway for these folks who are out here committing what my friend also says, these are mainly misdemeanor crimes, and that's the bulk of what we deal with. But we had strategies in place to address young people who were engaging in criminal behavior. We were also supporting the ceasefire effort in Oakland to address criminal behavior. We were providing gun violence diversion programs to address and trying to reduce the number of guns in this community. And we also were focused on hate crimes, which unfortunately are not new in this county or in this country. And so we were very sensitive to that and working on developing strategies for that. And I would continue to do that when I'm reelected.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Mr. Krishan?
Thank you. So when somebody commits a crime, there is always have a mindset that, oh, I'm going to get something out of this. Okay? And they have a damage assessment set up that, hey, you know what, I'm going to go to the chain snatching, for example, and the gold is worth this much, and if I go to the jail, have a lawyer and this thing, I'm going to cost this much, so by the end of the day, I'll be making some profit. Okay? So we have to break that comfort zone. If we set an example, hey, you know what, you don't decide. There is a punishment, and you have to actually have to restore the person. You have to pay that, the jewelry or the value of that item, whatever you have done, that person back. Once we actually break the math, that's one thing we can do. And we can actually, we have to keep doing it so that the other person will not get the motivation. We have to, nowadays, the kids, if you see that video, the Crown 4 actually released that on the jewelry store. This is a new video. In 3 minutes, I think 20, 30 people, they came in, broke everything, grabbed everything, and went. It was highly organized. It was like a movie scene, but it was not a movie scene. It was real. Nowadays, the criminals, they are highly motivated. They are motivated to commit more crime because it is profitable. We have to break that chain. We have to say it is not profitable. On the top of that, you're going to face the consequences. You're going to go to the jail. Once we break that, then we can fix it. And we can work with the ethnicity-wise. We can work with each and every specific community leader, and that has that involves the society in it. The district attorney cannot do everything alone. We have to involve the community in it. The community will say, okay, these are the problems our community is having. Each and every community, they have a different set of problems. The Indians, the Asians, the Hispanics, the African Americans, they have a different types of problems. So we have to have a specific solution for that specific community. We cannot have one size fits all. To do that, we can use the data. The data is already there. The arrest record data is there. The arrest record data says that, okay, how many arrests were there and for what? So we can actually pinch the areas that these are the areas they are more prone for the shoplifting, they are more prone for the chain snatching, they are more prone for the seniors to grab their ATM money. We can actually have that area, and we can work with the local police departments to have more patrolling over there. That saves a lot of resources. And for the prosecution, yes, the district attorney is there to prosecute. If the cop is arresting the person and coming to my table, yes, I'm not gonna disappoint them. I'm gonna press the charges, get the sentencing for that.
Time. Thank you.
Yeah, this question is for both candidates. As DA, how would you decide when diversion or restorative justice is appropriate as opposed to incarceration or other forms of penal punishment? Mr. Krishan, do you want to start?
Sure. So It's not that complicated. Make it simple. Somebody is committing a crime. Somehow they took the risk for that. So the dilemma should not be on the district attorney office. I should actually offer the diversion for this program, let him go, or ask for the lesser sentence. That's not the district attorney's job. That person took the chances, and they are somehow banking on the district attorney office that, hey, oh, you know what, if I drag this case long enough, take it to the trial, they will give up somewhere because of the money, because of the budget constraints. So somehow that's a motivation on it. So to make the policy, each and every case has to be prosecuted. Each and every case has to be prosecuted in the jail. And I'm going to ask for the sentencing for each and every criminal, with few exceptions. The exceptions are, if there is a first-time offender with non-violent crime, then yes, we can make a rule. The diversion program means the need, the urge to reform should come from the criminal defendant himself or herself. It should not be it should not be the initiative from the district attorney office. District attorney's job is, when there is a case, I'm going to prosecute. If the defendant says that, yes, I have some chances, give me chances, this is the first time I have done it, and show the good work, then yes, we can actually use the diversion program. I have seen the diversion program, they are being misused, literally misused. The people, they are getting plea bargain for the first time, for the second time, and it's a pattern. We have to break that pattern. Only then we can have a safer society. Otherwise, we're going to have the only complaints from the district attorney office or from the law enforcement.
Thank you, Mr. Krishan. Ms. Price?
In Alameda County, whether or not someone gets diversion is a result of a collaboration and a collaborative process between the court, the public defender, the probation department, and the district attorney's office. Any one of those actors has the right to veto someone's request for diversion. So it's not solely determined by the district attorney. Any one of them can say, no, this person does not deserve or is not entitled to diversion. And then they go back into the regular prosecution process. So it's important for the public to understand not everybody, most people don't get diversion, and we don't have enough diversion programs to be able to refer to people, and we certainly don't have the quality of diversion programs that I would want to see to provide effective rehabilitation for people who are going through the process. Even once we approve them, we still need better programs to ensure that they are actually getting the support they need to change their behavior. That's number one. Under California law, with respect to restorative justice, the district attorney's office and anyone who is a victim in Alameda County now must be informed of his or her right to request a restorative justice process. We started creating the infrastructure for that in 2023 when I hired Senior District Attorney Damaris Evans, another qualified person with 30 years experience and an expert, an international expert on restorative justice. And I hired her to develop a restorative justice program. There were cases where families asked us for restorative justice and we didn't have anything to offer them. But the law has now changed. Every district attorney's office has a duty to advise victims that they have the right to request a restorative justice option. That is where the law has gone today, and we follow the law. I just want to talk about the data because it is important. The infrastructure to create a data reporting, a public dashboard, was initiated and created under my administration. It took us more than a year to create the basic infrastructure to count the cases because it didn't exist for the past 50 years in this office. We had to create it. It took more than a year, and then once we did that, it took another 6 months for us to create a public dashboard. And that dashboard did exist. It went online in January of 2025, and she took it offline in February of 2025.
Thank you, Ms. Price.
I want to address the data part. You have time?
We're running really out of time here. Can we have, I have barely another question or two, if you don't mind. Okay. I actually want to ask you about narrative and perception. The reality is, as beautiful as this region is, there is a perception specifically about parts of Alameda County where crime is rampant. You see the narrative from national media, you see it from social media, and the reality is we did lose, Oakland specifically lost the Oakland A's, the Oakland Raiders, and the Golden State Warriors to other cities. And that has obviously created a perception. In and Out, for example, also left Oakland. It's created a perception that Oakland is unsafe. Even though the teams don't talk about public safety, that's usually an underlying theme. So what would you do to change that narrative, to change that perception, and who would you work with to do so? Ms. Price, go ahead.
I am not the mayor of Oakland. I'm the district attorney. I was the district attorney of Alameda County. I live in Oakland, however, and I'm very excited that we have a new mayor who is a booster for Oakland, who talks about the beautiful neighborhoods and the wonderful people who live in Oakland. We do have a team. It's called the Ballers, and we're very excited about that. One of our athletes just won a gold medal, Elisa Louie. So we've got some stuff going on in Oakland that we're very proud of. And the narrative, Oakland has always been, as long as I've been here since 1978, we have been the stepchild of San Francisco media. We always get the short end of the stick when it comes to reporting on what's going on in Oakland. And so we know that that's been ingrained, it's entrenched. But Oakland is a beautiful city, got great places. We're one of the food capitals. We've been recognized, thank you, right? We got the best food in the country, and we have wonderful concerts and parades, and we just have a lot of wonderful things, very positive things happening in Oakland that are always overshadowed by someone who wants to trash our city. However, again, as the district attorney of Alameda County, I am so proud of the diversity of this county, whether you're talking about Fremont, whether you're talking about Union City or Livermore. The wineries in Livermore are fantastic, right? And nobody gives us credit for that. Berkeley and Cal State University, we got some world-class universities here. We don't get credit for that. So Alameda County needs a booster. And I can tell you, as your district attorney, I love Alameda County, and I will be shouting from the rooftops how wonderful all of our cities and all of our communities are. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Krishan?
Oakland. So when you have a whiteboard and you put one dot on it, and when ask somebody, what do you see? They see one dot. They don't see the whiteboard. The whole board is white. Same thing. The Alameda County is beautiful. Okay? So we need to bring the visibility in it. We need to bring the perspective in it. When you see the whole Alameda County, Oakland is just one city. And it's not that bad. I told you that the data says, the arrest record says, majority of the arrest, about 60% of the arrest based on the number of dots, they are in Hayward, San Leandro, San Lorenzo area. Oakland is little far from the Fremont, Dublin, and Livermore, so Oakland is not that bad. It is more about the visibility. We have to prove, we have to show more about Oakland. We have so many people in Oakland, they have to show the good side of the Oakland. Otherwise, everybody will see only the black dot on a whiteboard. That's not the full truth. Oakland is beautiful. I've been there multiple times. The lake, the people, the shops, they have open heart. As a district attorney, my job is to keep it that way. There are two types of news. One, the news to get reels, to views, to likes, and to provoke. Those news, we have to stay away from that. We have to find the truth between those news agencies and the information. Once we have the real information, the Oakland will be fixed. It's a process. We just have to believe in it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to you both for answering all of our questions. We're now going to move on to your closing statements. You'll each have 2 minutes each. Mr. Krishan?
Sure. So everybody knows this is the first time I'm running for any political post. And the reason I'm running for any political post because the county needs a change, okay? Why the county needs a change? For so many years, the district attorney election wasn't even on the ballot. She said it on her own. It was handed down one after another, and you can see that. That's not it. You can actually always blame the district attorney office, but the blame is on all of us. We didn't vote. So when you see the data, again, voter data, in presidential elections, the voter chances are about 60% of the voter, they vote. So 40% they don't even vote. This is midterm. In the midterm, only 40% people vote. So those 40% people vote, it has to change. Each and every person, if you want to make a change, you have to vote. This is the voice, this is the power the California Constitution has given you. And if you don't use that power, most of the time, you lose that power. And this is what is happening in the district attorney office as well. There are multiple offices in Alameda County. They were unopposed. They were going one by one. So at this election, vote. You can vote for me, you can vote for her, or you can vote for somebody else. But at least go and vote. I'll accept your decision and I'll respect that.
Thank you.
It's Women's History Month. And before survivors had a voice, I fought for gender justice at Yale as a student against rape and sexual assault under Title IX. That same fight is why I'm running again for re-election, that to stand up against Donald Trump for the people of our county and our country. My top priority is keeping the people of Alameda County safe and making sure that our justice system is fair for everyone. Justice is in my DNA. The news of today reaffirms my commitment to win this race. Donald Trump is deploying Gestapo troops around the country, and we are on his hit list. They are coming here. The surge of immigrant detentions and deportations in Northern California and the lawlessness of federal law enforcement agents is a call to action for all of us. Gun violence in Oakland remains too high. My 2024 gun violence report shows you what we were doing and what we need to do going forward. We got grants, we worked with law enforcement, convening regional roundtables. We're working on a partnership with the U.S. Attorney, and we were moving forward to tackle that issue. There's a national reckoning driven by the Epstein survivors about crimes against women and children, which was one of my top priorities, whether it's sexual coercion, sexual assault, child abuse, or child sex exploitation. Those are the issues that my administration was addressing and that still need to be addressed. Alameda County is one of the most diverse counties in the country. We cannot afford to have a caretaker district attorney who is aligned with Donald Trump in any way, who hesitates to prosecute or protect us from Trump's Gestapo police, who is complicit in discrimination based on race and religion, and who's beholden to billionaires and other wealthy interests and police associations. I'm a corporate-free candidate, and our campaign is powered by everyday people who believe that this office belongs to the people. Please go to PamelaPrice4DA.com and make a contribution if you believe what we stand for, and sign up to volunteer. We need volunteers to help us win this race. And tell everyone you know that this race, again, we have to vote. This race will be decided in the June primary. Not November, it's June. Thank you all for coming out and for listening.
And that's going to wrap things up for this broadcast. Gopal, do you want to pump your website as well?
Sure. So you can go to my website, electgopal.com. Again, I need funding, I need volunteers, I need social media presence. So if you believe in me and if you think you believe in change, support me.
All right. Thank you both so much. We really appreciate your candor. For Alex Hall from KQED, I'm Ravi Kapur from Diya TV. Thank you to Project Rebound and Cal State East Bay for hosting us today. And now here's a moment here with Forrest to close it up.
Once we moderators in our township. Thank you for coming. Good afternoon, Ms. Jackson.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, you do.
Thank you. Anytime. You let me know.